Welcome to No Broken Legs. I am Evan Belfiore. Joining me on the phone on a sometimes sunny but cold Thursday afternoon is Jimmy Champ. Jimmy, how are you today?
Man, I'm feeling funky like a monkey, man. Ready to watch the Browns this week and get back in the win column. It's going to be a good week.
Yeah, they better get a win this week. And when I looked at the line for this game, it blew my mind. Cleveland is home. They're playing the Lions, and they're 11-point favorites after the disgusting showing they put on last week and really how poorly they've played over the last month and a half. That really surprised me.
Well, I mean, don't just completely dismiss how well they played against Cincinnati.
And I guess that's really that's the Lions. The Lions and Cincinnati get bundled up together because they're both they're both just shitty. I guess everything we saw from Cincy earlier this year seems to have just evaporated.
Kind of seems like that, yeah.
So I guess the best place to start with the Browns after just an awful week was which team shows up and really which coaches show up. Then let's just start with Kevin Stefanski. Am I going to get the Kevin Stefanski that's going to stick to the run game, or am I going to get the play caller who decides after a really nice scripted drive that marches right down the field, we're just going to go empty set pass happy?
I still believe in Kevin Stefanski. I still believe in everything he's done so far. So I'm going to say he's watched a ton of tape, realizes what his mistakes were last week and against Pittsburgh. And you're going to see them back to run the ball, play action, the shots that Baker likes to take. And I think this is going to be a game just like Cincinnati. I predicted they would trounce Cincinnati. I want to predict they're going to trounce Detroit. I'm not going to do that because I actually think Detroit has more fight than Cincinnati does. But I think this will be an easy victory for Cleveland. I think Stefanski will, will get back to what they do well. Have you heard if Chubb has a chance to play? As of last night, he was still listed on the COVID list. So that concerns me. Like, Nick Chubb being back would be helpful, but from what we've seen, Dearness Johnson can run as a one if you just give him the football. Just give him the football.
Yeah, that's everybody that's tried to bring up Chubb as a reason for the problems. They've been able to run the ball with everybody. So it's not a problem of being able to run the ball when the numbers are called. It's they're not getting their numbers called enough.
I think as long as I don't want to see this game get tight because I don't want to see him have to make decisions tight again because that has not worked out for him very well this past month and a half. But I don't think it'll get to that. But I think you'll see a heavy dose of the run game, a heavy dose of play action. We'll get back to our 3 tight end set, running out of it and throwing out of it, which has worked really well when they've done it. And I think the Browns will get back on the winning side before 2 super important football games.
Just to follow up, Jimmy, Nick Chubb is still in COVID-19 protocols, so he'll have to have, I believe if he has a negative test Saturday, he might be able to play, or you have to have 2 in 24 hours.
He has to have 2 in 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, so
this just sucks, but again, they've been able to run the ball. The problem with this team is they've been so inconsistent through the air. And I know some of that is Baker Mayfield is injured. Some of that is Stefanski's play calling. At a lot of times it seems like they're trying to force passing the ball instead of doing what they do best, which is run the play action game, run some screens. Watching New England last weekend against us just made me think, man, that's a lot of really coolly designed screens. Why aren't we running any of that stuff? I know it's in the playbook because I've seen it, maybe once or twice throughout the season. Why aren't they combining more of those plays to really, really try and make things a little simpler for their quarterback that's super beat up?
I completely agree, and especially when some of the best playmakers on your team need the ball around the line of scrimmage. Like, you don't need to throw shots to Jarvis. Just get him the ball around the line of scrimmage and let him go to work. That's what he does best. So, yeah, I don't know, but I'm expecting a bounce-back game from the offense schematically, physically. I'm expecting to see them come out and really fight in this game and show they are still a playoff caliber team.
On the other side of the ball, I have the same questions for the coach. Am I going to get the Joe Woods that's going to dial up pressure and force the offense to make quick decisions when you have blitzers coming behind Clowney or Garrett? Or am I going to get the Joe Woods that just trots out the same defense that's getting torn apart, refuses to make adjustments, and just sits back passively?
Yeah, I mean, at least on the plus side, you might be able to play that weak, soft defense and still dominate this Detroit offense. But I don't want to see that. I agree with you. Hopefully getting called out by a guy who's not a player who's prone to call out his coaching staff. Hopefully that call out by Myles Garrett will hopefully that will break into Joe Woods' head and make him understand, man, I got to blitz. I got to move these guys around. I got to make some adjustments. But I also do want to say, and while I completely agree with what Myles Garrett said 100%, is Myles Garrett is a guy that's being looked at as Defensive Player of the Year. And I think of other defensive linemen in recent history that have had that award, guys like Aaron Donald and prime J.J. Watt. They would have made plays to stop teams from going 90 yards 3 times in a game. So, Myles, you do need to look inward a little bit, too, because you're popping at times, and then there are series where we don't see you make plays. So you got to consistently be a superstar to make up for the deficiencies in your defensive play calling. So we do need you to do that. We're still riding with you. We still love you. But call Joe Woods out and continue to make great plays all the time. We need that to happen. That's what has to happen for this defense to be great. But the game plan is simple. Granted, you're not going to have Troy Hill, but other than Troy Hill, you're pretty healthy in the secondary right now. Somebody else has to play that Troy Hill spot. You've got to run blitzes behind Myles and behind Clowney. Make this offense more confused than they are when they come out of the huddle, which isn't very hard to do. And John Johnson has to play better. That's just plain and simple. Like, Detroit has watched the game tape, and they're looking at ways to get Harrison and Johnson on their best players because they probably think they have plus matchups in those situations. So defensively, those 3 guys have to play better. Clowney needs to make some splash plays. Garrett needs to make splash plays. And JOK needs to be on the field to give an opportunity to make splash plays.
My concern for this team and what I'll be looking most closely at when the Browns are on defense is how effectively are the Lions going to be able to run the ball on the Browns. Yeah. Because when teams have wanted to, and they've made it a point of emphasis, they have just steamrolled the interior of this line. The Patriots did it, Pittsburgh did it, and the Lions had success last week against Pittsburgh running the ball. And they're a bad team, but if you're going to make Jared Goff only have to make the throws that you made Mac Jones make on Sunday,
he can make those throws.
He can make those throws because those are really fucking easy throws to make. And I don't really have a whole lot to say about this game because I'm so fucking fed up with watching the Browns play like shit and watching the coaches while their team's playing like shit doing absolutely nothing to adjust, nothing to try to counter. Or I've got Stefanski making counters to counters that haven't even been coming yet, but he's countering their counter before they've countered, and it just do what you do well.
Yep.
Go out there and run the ball down Detroit. Just take it right to them. I don't care if Chubb's in the game. I don't care if it's just Dearness Johnston. Just fucking run it right down their throats. Run some play action. Mix in the screens. Throw out of the 3 tight end set. We've been saying it all year. This is what they've been successful at. Take every single one of those empty set 4 or 5 wide receiver plays and throw it in the fucking trash. I want to see that shit this week. I want to see any of that shit this week. It hasn't worked. Show me you can do what you do well. Same thing for the defense. Go out there and fucking play defense. Don't sit back. Don't let them we'll find these nice soft spots in the zone. No, get up in their faces, hit them, blitz them, and make them adjust to what you do. That's what I want to see on Sunday from the Browns. Because if they can't do it to the Lions, then they're not going to be able to do it to Baltimore the next 2 of the next 3.
Yeah, I agree. But
So I'm fired up, man.
I see you have not came down from where you were on Monday.
No, because the more I looked at it, the more I saw what happened on Sunday isn't the aberration. What is the outlier is what they did against Cincinnati. That's the outlier. Over the last 6 weeks, the blowout that they had in Cincinnati is that's the outlier. The rest of the time, something's been wrong with this team, either on the offensive or defensive side of the ball.
Just been spots like the game against New England was the first game where they really got dominated on both sides of the ball for the whole game. Because
Arizona destroyed them.
Sure. But while Pittsburgh was able to run the ball, they weren't able to score a lot of points. You had the Arizona game, but as we talked about, the Chargers and the Chiefs game, there were just a couple plays where the defense was coming together. But this has to be a game. Like, you have to win this game. You put yourself in a situation where you have to win this game, and you have to get right in this game. But the Lions are the perfect team to do that against. The Lions are going to come out. They're going to be feisty. They're probably still going to try some trickeration shit. You've got to be ready for it. You've got to be prepared. The pre-snap penalties have to go away, but I still trust Stefanski. I still trust Baker. While I don't trust Joe Woods at all, I do trust a lot of the players on defense. And I think they're going to have an easy win here. We're going to get everybody off the ledge a little bit, so it's not quite as easy of a jump when we play Baltimore 2 out of 3 weeks. I think they're going to be okay. I don't think clearly Vegas doesn't think there's any concern for Cleveland to not dominate this football game. So
there's a lot of, that 11 spread tells me the bettors still think Detroit's bad and Cleveland's not bad. They might not be great, but they're not bad.
Well, because they're not bad.
No, now they look decidedly mediocre. This is what mediocre NFL teams look like. They're up 1 week, they're down the next week. They win a close game, they lose a close game. That's your average. When they played 16 games, we would say that's your average 7 to 9 win team, and depending on turnover luck, that sort of determines how many games you win.
But here's the thing I will say though, as opposed to a lot of the teams in the AFC where they're close with, I don't know if anybody really knows how good Pittsburgh is, because Pittsburgh has guys that can splash in games. I don't think they're as good as their record, but they're not as bad as I thought they were going to be. New England may be better than we want to admit. Cleveland has yet this year to lose to a team that was decidedly worse than them. They have to beat Detroit. They haven't lost to Jacksonville or Miami. They haven't had that game this year, and they have to continue to not have that game. They've beaten every team they should beat. We think they should have beat Pittsburgh, and they should have played better against New England. Who knows how good those teams are, but I know Detroit is not good. So I'm expecting Cleveland to lead this game for 60 minutes and get an easy victory against Detroit. That's what it has to be. This cannot be a game that's decided in the fourth quarter. This has to be a dominant game offensively and defensively, and that's what I'm expecting to see.
Well, I would love to see that too. I'm just in show me mode. They get nothing. I just don't know what this team's going to look like from week to week, so it's very difficult to bet on them. I'm taking Detroit as the underdog. I think Cleveland wins this game, but I don't know if they win. Really, you could tell me anything, and I would believe the outcome. Cleveland could win this game by 50. They could just fucking implode and lose by 40, and everything in between. Okay. I don't think it's plausible that they're going to implode and lose by 40, but
it's neither
at this point,
or
I'm not going to be surprised if this Browns team just doesn't show up, because we've seen them not show up a couple of times in the last month and a half, and it's. Man, is it fucking frustrating as a fan to see that.
Yeah, no, they're going to show up for this game. I'm also taking Detroit because I think Detroit will keep fighting, and they've covered a lot of spreads like this year in games they've lost. So I'm taking Detroit, but I do think Cleveland's going to win this game easily. I can see Detroit gets a late touchdown to cut it to 7 or 8.
Yeah,
So I
they've
do
had
think
a
Detroit
few backdoor covers.
Yeah, I
Golf,
think Detroit.
golf looking good in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think Detroit will cover, but I think Cleveland wins this game easily.
All right, well, I hope so, because I don't know if I can take another Monday like this week's was. All right, so we've got none of these games really spoke to me, Jimmy. I don't feel like I have a good feel for what's going on in the NFL right now. Things have been very up and down. Baltimore, we'll start with Baltimore. They're traveling to Chicago. They are 5-point favorites. The over-under sits at 46. Baltimore had that ugly loss, man. 10 days to think about it. How do you think they respond?
Well, I think they respond by beating the absolute shit out of the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe we should stop using this word, but I'm not willing to stop using it because I'm going to continue to believe what I believe. Baltimore's a lock to beat Chicago by a touchdown at least, so I'm taking Baltimore here.
Yeah, the Baltimore is another team that Lamar Jackson saved them a couple of times, and they've gotten some breaks, but they also look pretty good most of the time. And I don't think Chicago's very good. I don't think you think Chicago's really all that good. Justin Fields has looked better, though.
Yeah, Fields has looked better, but I still think, like, in a game with Baltimore and Chicago, much like in a game with Cleveland and Chicago, the biggest hindrance Chicago had was their coach.
Yeah.
Like, let's not chip Myles Garrett at all. Like, how'd that work for you, coach? Like, and I imagine, Miami, and let's be honest, right? Like, Miami did to Baltimore the same exact thing that the Chargers exposed them to in the playoffs a couple of years ago. Just put cornerbacks and safeties on the field.
And then
Lamar
blitz.
can't run away from them. Just put them on the field. And then everybody wanted to believe that there were other ways to stop him. I don't know if there are, but I know the safeties and the cornerbacks work because then you don't get linebackers on Mark Andrews. You don't get linebackers in the slot on Hollywood Brown. You're able to cover over the top of Bateman. It makes perfect sense, but I don't think Matt Nagy's smart enough to try to do that. So
I'll agree with you there. And on the bright side for the Browns, they love throwing a ton of DBs out there. They showed it against New England in that goal line, so they just have to run that defense. They've already done it, so now they can do it when it should be run.
That's all they were doing. They were just getting ready for a game that actually mattered.
Getting some prep for Baltimore in.
Yeah, that's all it was.
All right, our next game, the LA Chargers are hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Chargers are 5.5-point favorites. The over-under sits at 47. This is the Sunday night affair, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chargers here. I still have no trust in Pittsburgh, no trust in Mason Rudolph. Najee Harris is looking better, but a lot of their key pieces on defense are banged up. I think the Chargers will get right in this game. I think you're going to see them pick on Joe Hayden a lot. I think the Chargers win this game by a touchdown, so give me the Chargers.
I'm going to take Pittsburgh because the Chargers generally play worse at home, and I feel like this is going to be mostly a home game for the Steelers.
Yeah.
The Cincinnati Bengals are traveling to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. The Bengals are 1-point favorites. The over-under sits at 49.5. These are two teams that neither of us thought would be very good, Jimmy. Cincinnati started out hot, as did Vegas, but it looks like both of these teams are fading at the same time.
Yeah, I'm taking Las Vegas because we need Cincinnati to lose again. And I think this is a coin flip game, but I'm taking Vegas. I think their defense is a little bit better. Like, Vegas has gotten outclassed by really good teams, but teams that aren't really good, they've looked okay. So I'm taking Vegas here.
Yeah, I'll agree with you that I'll take Vegas as well. They seem to be kind of like the Browns, where they're capable of beating the teams that they should be beating, but the 50-50 games and the games against teams that are better than them, they really struggle.
Yeah.
Jimmy, I've had to avoid sports, and I still can't avoid it because I have to see all the fucking New England Patriots are back bullshit. And I was really hoping that I could pick against them, but lo and behold, they're traveling to Atlanta to take on the shitty Falcons. So how can you not pick New England to win tonight?
You can't. New England, is it still at 7?
I saw 6.5. It's up to 7 at some places though, and the over-under sits at 47.
Yeah, you got to take New England. That's it. That's all we're talking about. That's all we're saying. Nothing else about this game.
I'm just going to mention New England has that look of those New England teams that we hated so much, where it just seems like the other coaches don't do anything to make the Patriots uncomfortable. And you had the plan last week, Jimmy. Stop Judon and blitz Mac Jones. And I went back and looked, like nobody's been doing that for a lot of this year, and it's very frustrating to see that once again we're seeing things. It's like, well, how about you just do those two things and start from there?
Like that should be the starting point. Like Matt Judon should never get a clear run at anybody, and it just keeps happening. And I mean, Mac Jones was good in college with a clean pocket, and we're just letting him have clean pockets. Like under pressure, he's been horrible, but we just give him clean pockets. And I don't understand it, but I agree. Buffalo better keep their shit together, or New England might just steal the division.
That brings us to the Buffalo Bills, who are home, taking on the Indianapolis Colts. The Bills are the epitome of up and down, Jimmy. They've looked as good as anybody, and, then they have weeks where they lose to the Jaguars. The Colts are 5-5 somehow. When I look at them and the Browns, because they have the same record, I look at the Browns and think, oh, the Browns aren't as good as I thought they would be. I don't think the Colts are better than I thought they would be. I still think the Colts kind of stink, but I'm just going to bet on. I'm going to pick the Colts this week because Buffalo's been up and down, and I don't know. Maybe I can put some bad juju on them so they lose.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, I think the Bills are going to win this game by like a field goal, but with as many points as they're giving Indy, I'm taking Indy.
Our next game is the league-leading Tennessee Titans, Jimmy. They are hosting the Houston Texans. They are 10-point favorites. The over-under sits at 44.5. I'll take Tennessee because they apparently just keep winning.
Yeah, it would not shock me if Houston held this to less than 10, but I'm going to take Tennessee as well.
One of the biggest matchups of the weekend is Kansas City hosting Dallas. A lot of talk about Kansas City being back. A lot of talk about Dallas being the best team in the NFL. Kansas City is 2.5-point favorites here. The over-under sits at 56.5. I like the over because I expect a lot of fireworks in this game.
Yeah, I love the over. I'm taking Kansas City. I have more belief in Kansas City than I have in Dallas, mostly because if it comes down to a coaching decision, we all know who the better coach is. So give me Kansas City. I think they win this game by 3, so the 2.5 isn't a problem for me.
I'll take Dallas. I'm still not. If the Chiefs win this week, then they have my trust back.
Fair enough.
The Arizona Cardinals are traveling to Seattle to take on the Seahawks, who are just reeling at this point. The Cardinals are 2-point favorites. The over-under sits at 48.5. It just looked like Russell Wilson wasn't ready to come back and play, Jimmy.
It did, but I think he'll be back and ready to play this week. Arizona's all banged up. They're just trying to get to their bye. Give me Seattle +2 and the money line at +110 because I think Seattle wins this one outright. Wow.
I'm taking the Cardinals. I think that defense rises to the occasion against an offense that we talk about Russ Wilson as one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but the more he passes, the less good that offense looks. And we've talked about it before that they really miss Chris Carson, which is maybe you've brought that up once or twice.
Maybe we've talked about that, and maybe their old offensive coordinator wasn't the problem after all. I don't know.
Oh, Brian Schottenheimer is unoriginal and boring. He's just like Cleveland people got to get over the Schottenheimer stuff, man. They're like good, they're okay to good, but let's just calm down on how good they are.
No, I don't think I will.
The Green Bay Packers are traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. They are 1.5-point favorites. The over-under sits at 49. I was surprised this line wasn't higher, Jimmy.
I'm not, because Minnesota tends to play Green Bay tight, and man, the good teams in this league aren't are having trouble sustaining a couple good games in a row. I'm taking Minnesota and the money line because I think Minnesota's going to win this one outright. I still think Minnesota has a chance to make the playoffs. Green Bay, they look really good at times, and then at times they still don't look like they have that killer edge. And I think Mike Zimmer will have his team ready to play in this one. I think Minnesota's going to win. Kirk Cousins is actually sneakily having a really, really good season. I think he might be able to expose that Packers defense a little bit. So,
yeah, the Packers will be without Aaron Jones. So, who's the backup? Dillon?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dillon will see a lot of work in that game, which he's been seeing most of the work in the running game anyway, so I don't know if that'll actually affect him all that much. This is coming from somebody who has Aaron Jones in fantasy and has watched him. Just watch Dillon get extra touches all game. Like, what the hell? You mentioned a lot of the good teams in this league have been inconsistent. One of those teams is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have lost 2 in a row. They are home facing the New York Giants. They are 11-point favorites. The over-under is 49.5. This is the Monday night affair.
Yeah, for me, I can't watch you lose to Washington and then pick you to beat a team by 11 points. I'm taking the Giants.
Nick Wright on First Things First had an amazing stat that the last time Tom Brady lost 3 games in a row was 2003.
Yeah, wow.
So I'm going to take the Buccaneers just because the Giants have been playing better, and I will give them that. I don't know. I just feel like Tampa Bay's going to get right at some point, and this looks like a good time to do it in prime time.
Yeah, there's definitely a possibility there.
Jimmy, we both buried the San Francisco 49ers, so of course they came out last week and just stomped the shit out of the Rams. They're traveling across country to play the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're 6.5-point favorites. The over-under is 45. I guess I'll take San Francisco because they're going to win some games now so they can get Kyle Shanahan closer to 500 career.
Yeah, I'm taking San Francisco as well. You cannot do what you did to the Rams and then not beat the Jaguars by more than a touchdown. So that's all I got. That's it. I got nothing else, but that's what I know.
Yeah, if that doesn't happen, then the world really doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
The Philadelphia Eagles are hosting the New Orleans Saints. The Eagles are 2-point favorites here. The over-under sits at 43. These are 2 teams that I've had no read on all year. I'll take the Saints to, again, bet on Sean Payton, so that means the Eagles are probably going to win by 20.
Yeah, I'm taking the Eagles here. I kind of like some things they've been doing lately. I just not sold on Trevor Siemian. So I'm taking Philly. I think New Orleans made a really bad play call to lose that game in overtime last week. So I'm going to take Philly. I think New Orleans is going to be down a little bit this week.
Cam Newton is back in Carolina, and that's got a lot of people excited. They are home hosting the Washington Armada. The Panthers are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under sits at 43. Is this a thing with Cam Newton being back, or was that more of a flash in the pan?
I mean, it was 7 plays that he didn't throw a ball past the line of scrimmage. And now you're going to start him. I don't understand. The whole world seems to think and believe and want Cam to be back and be ready to play, and the Panthers have a ton of weapons on offense that a good Cam Newton could unlock, but I don't think Cam Newton's any good, so I'm taking the Armada at plus 3.5 and plus 150. If there's a coach in this league that knows how to slow down Cam Newton, it's got to be Ron Rivera because he watched it happen over and over again. So I'm taking Washington.
Yeah, that's why I'm taking Washington too. And we haven't seen anything from Cam Newton over the last 2 years that says he can be much more than what he was this past Sunday, which was kind of the best version of what Sean Payton wants Taysom Hill to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Our last game of the week is a game that I just, right off the bat, I don't think anybody should watch this football game. It is the Miami Dolphins. They are taking on the New York Jets in the Meadowlands. The Dolphins are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under is 44.5. I'll take Miami because the New York Jets have decided that with Everything going on at their quarterback situation, the answer is Joe Flacco for them, Jimmy. And I don't think that's a very good answer.
Sorry, I fell asleep there for a second. Did you say Miami and the Jets?
Yeah, Joe Flacco is going to start against maybe Tua, maybe Jacoby Brissett. Who knows?
Yeah, give me Miami -3.5, please. Even Jets fans and Dolphins fans, you can watch this game because you're gonna win. Jets fans, don't put yourself through this. Don't watch this game. Like, go to a bar, go to somebody's house with a Sunday ticket, watch something else. Don't watch this game. This is gonna be horrible. And it sucks because the Jets actually do have some pieces on offense that I think can grow and be good. But I can't believe, like, Mike White played really good. Mike White played really bad. I can't believe you think Joe Flacco at this stage of Flacco-ness is better than Mike White. Like, I don't get it. Dolphins are going to win this game. That's all there is to it, I think.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing. The Jets already got their 2 wins, so it's not like they're not the Lions scrambling to not be winless. So Why not just throw out? I don't know. The Jets don't know what they're doing. It's kind of that simple.
It's starting to look like, I mean, it's early, so I don't know if you really want to go hot seat, but maybe they didn't make the best coaching decision.
I don't know. I feel the same way about Robert Saleh. I feel about quite a few of the Browns coaches that they had. Like, is Mike Pettin a good football coach? Like, I don't know if he's a good head coach. I know if you give him a shitty roster like the Browns did, he's a bad head coach. Fair
enough. I mean, that's fair. Right, that's fair.
So, I mean, I think Robert Saleh might be one of those guys that I actually think Robert Saleh might be a lot like Mike Pettin in that he's better situated to be a coordinator than a head coach.
Yeah, it's definitely possible.
So we kind of blew through the games here. So let's take a look at the 2 conferences real quick here, Jimmy. Who do you think are the favorites in the AFC right now with how up and down everything's been? Who do you like?
So here's where it gets hard, right? Because you want to say Tennessee, but I feel like in a 1-game playoff situation, any decent team with a decent defense and a decent coaching staff is going to be able to scheme away anything Tennessee can do on offense. Because, I mean, Julio's on the IR. You don't know what's up with him. Derrick Henry's out. So it's hard. Like, I think Tennessee is probably the best team in the AFC right now, but I don't think Tennessee's going to win a playoff game. They may get a bye.
You didn't say the elephant in the room, but Ryan Tannehill.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he's not good enough to overcome the limitations that the team has. I'm going to go ahead and stick to my guns. I know they've been so up and down. I thought Buffalo was probably the best team in the AFC to start the season. I'm going to stick with Buffalo as the best team in the AFC, but I think the gap between like the top 10 teams in the AFC is so small that the playoffs are going to be really, really interesting.
Oh, yeah. I think if you're Baltimore, you're thinking you can make the Super Bowl and beat anybody in the AFC. Even though Baltimore might be the 4th best division winner.
Yeah.
But they don't feel like any of those teams. It's cliche to say it, but when we get to the playoffs, like, is anybody betting against the Chiefs?
Probably not. No broken legs.
We've been saying it for a while now that if they get their shit together, they're going to be the scariest team. And I know the Raiders play soft and they just let the Chiefs pick them apart. If the Chiefs can just get some momentum going, that's the scariest team in the league. But until they look vulnerable, I would reiterate what I said a few weeks ago when we looked at the Super Bowl lines. Now's a good time to look at, maybe throwing $50 at the Patriots isn't a crazy idea this year.
No.
Maybe throwing 50 on the Chargers isn't a crazy idea. Maybe they just get hot. You don't know. Is on the NFC side, who do you like over there?
So I think you have to say Dallas because of kind of the things they've gone through the last month. I think you have to say Dallas right now. When it gets to the playoffs, I'm taking Green Bay and the Rams over everyone else because I don't trust Arizona, I don't trust Dallas, and I don't trust their coaching staffs. So, but I trust Aaron Rodgers. I picked the Rams to win the Super Bowl, and there's no team in the league that's given me enough evidence to make me believe I was wrong. Because Tampa, I don't know. Like, I thought Tampa was getting right, and then Washington beats them. So I don't know. But I still think, I think now you've got a group. I think Dallas is a little bit ahead of everybody else. And then you've got Arizona just under Dallas. And then I have Green Bay, the Rams, and Tampa. But when it gets to the playoffs, those are the three teams I'll be betting on to win football games.
I want to like the Cardinals, but I can't trust that Kyler Murray will be there healthy and playing.
You can't. You can't.
And it's a big week for the Cardinals because if they drop this game against the Seahawks, they'll have the same number of losses as the Rams and let them right back into the division. And that's going to be a rough thing because the other division winners are a lot more secure. The Cowboys already have a 3.5 game lead. The Packers already have a 3.5 game lead. And does anybody think the Saints are going to win more games than the Buccaneers?
No.
How about the Panthers?
Nope.
I'm not even going to mention the Falcons. So the Cardinals and the Rams aren't just vying for the division title. They're vying for the difference between a home game and being on the road throughout the playoffs.
Yep.
I do want to like the Rams too, but seeing Stafford just turn into an interception machine the last 2 weeks is very frightening, I would think, for anybody that likes this Rams team. And now it was 1 week, and there's already fucking drama with OBJ in LA. Like, I mean, it's just it's incredible. I'm glad he's not here. I'm glad we don't have to deal with that shit anymore. But I feel like at the end of the day, it's going to be either the Buccaneers, the Packers, or the Cowboys. And I trust the Buccaneers the most out of those three teams. The Packers they seem like they have a legitimate ceiling. And that ceiling's the NFC Championship game, or maybe the week before. And it's just a weird thing with them. I can't really explain it, but they always seem to lose games they should win in the second or third round.
And you can't, when talking about the end game result for the Packers, you can't just ignore the fact that Aaron Rodgers could miss 2 more games.
Yeah, I guess that threat's always just out there.
If you get put on the list, the league has pretty much made it impossible for you to clear protocols to play that week. Unvaccinated players. So that does matter. And it could very well hurt them, but I agree with you. I do see a ceiling for the Packers. I got a lot of money riding on Matt Stafford and the Rams, so I'm going to stick with the Rams. But I do think you got to bet on Tom Brady and the Buccaneers in the playoffs as well. Because I don't trust Dallas enough. I don't trust Mike McCarthy enough. And I don't trust Cliff Kingsbury or Kyler Murray. I mean, even in a big game, if Kyler goes out for 2 series and you got to put Colt McCoy in there, I mean, what?
Yeah, that's a drastic drop off.
Yeah, it's a big drop off.
Well, I think that wraps up our Week 11 preview here. Any last final thoughts, Jimmy?
No, this is a big week for the Browns. Like we said, they got to get a win here. Hopefully, it's a real easy game. They don't have to put a lot of pressure on themselves before the games in Baltimore. I think there's some huge games in the AFC and NFC this week. The Indy-Buffalo game is huge. Dallas-KC is huge. Arizona-Seattle, Pittsburgh-LA. There's a lot of games with playoff implications. So, and I'm hoping my three money line bets hit and I can make some money this weekend.
Yeah, I'm just hoping to get back on the right track. My picks have been atrocious the last few weeks.
But you and everyone else in the world that does this.
Yeah. Well, that makes me feel better. My locks are 5 and 15 over the last 4 weeks.
Yep.
All right, so we'll try and turn that around. Hopefully we get to see the Browns turn it around. Jimmy, thank you for joining me.
No place I'd rather be, brother.
And we want to thank you for listening. For Jimmy Champ, I am Evan Belfiore, and we are No Broken Legs.